it's like, how did you go from one day away from auction to getting top dollar through innovation? Like my local investors that I knew, the numbers were too tight to be a flip for them even.
Okay. Did you end up doing any work to the house before you put it on the market?
No, actually, no work.
Wow.
We got a full cash offer.
How much you guys end up making on that?
It was about 24,000.
Awesome, Selena. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. Definitely excited to hear your story today. Can you give everybody just like a little background about where you're from, what you were doing before real estate, how you got into real estate, and how we ended up kind of crossing paths here?
Okay. Before real estate, I was doing insurance sales. So I started with the insurance I was like 18 years old when I started actually doing that. And I just started as a producer. And I was based just commission only. I was doing that and it was going well in a sense, but I really was interested in just knowing what it would be to, get into real estate. And I was thinking maybe I was going to become a real estate agent, or I don't know, but I was thinking that being an investor would be maybe shooting too high, at that point in my life. 17 years old, and I'm a young mom. I had my first baby at 15 and was doing running start, working at a grocery store and doing, my homework from like 10 a.m. to like 1 in the morning and then repeating that again. So I really wanted to get out of that rat race. I was very worried about just like being able to have a good future for my kid at that point. I had my parents' support at that time. And so I just wanted really to take full advantage of that. And I just thought, I'm doing good at insurance, but I need to figure out how is it that I can actually get my feet wet in real estate, because I've been hearing that real estate is a really good market to be, like a really good niche. Like a lot of millionaires are made from real estate. So
Nice.
I wanted to shoot high,
Yeah.
at that point.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, you overcame some crazy challenges and everything, but I mean, that's a blessing too, because it got you serious really young. Like you're like, I got to
Yeah.
make some stuff happen.
Right. Like I messed up.
Wow.
And at what point I was like, "Ooh, I messed up." But it was actually one of my biggest, having a baby that young. I had to grow up really quickly too.
It was meant to be. No, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. So
So
how did you eventually like dip your toe in the real estate waters?
at that point, my boyfriend had mentioned this book about a rich dad poor dad. He had
Hmm.
read it in Spanish, and he told me about it, and he's like, this sounds like really good thing, and it just got me interested. I never read the book. I'm just more of an action taker more than like, oh, I'm gonna go read this book and then figure out what this all says. I just ask him, give me a brief description of what it is, and then I'll try to see how we can make it work. And so
Yeah.
at that point, I thought I was gonna build a house, so I bought a little like piece of land, a seller financed. We found that, and that ended up not working. That little piece of land didn't had any water,
Uh,
any like water or sewer. I was just very 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 new,
yeah.
and so but we got that, and we got it for a really good price. Um, and then after that, we moved from where I was. I grew up in Okanogan County, and then we moved where I was at to come to Yakima. And at that point, we had moved in with my mom, and I had sold the mobile home where I was at in that mobile home park, and I got that money plus some savings. And then I was looking for a deal, or like a home. I had no credit at that point. I did not have my U.S. residency either, so it's really hard to get a loan. We found a deal where initially the seller was going to seller finance it to us, but later we found that couple was actually in a very tough situation. They were going through foreclosure, and that realtor was trying to help them sell that place. So initially we thought we were going into a seller finance deal, but we ended up actually taking over their mortgage. But and they sold it to us via a real estate contract. So
Ah. And how old were you at the time this was happening?
I was at that point, I believe I was 20.
So 20, you had the seller finance deal with the land, seller finance deal with the house.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. You were
Yeah.
like, hey, yeah. What's that book say? Just paraphrase it. I'm ready to buy some houses. It says, okay,
Right.
buy stuff, get wealthy. Let's do it.
I was
That's
like
awesome.
cuckoo, I was like, I guess I didn't really thought about it that much. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I was just like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. And so, well, fast forward, I had heard about Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I heard that there was going to be a seminar from Rich Dad Poor Dad close to my location up in Kennewick. And so I signed up for that meeting, and my boyfriend and I drove over to join the meeting. And well, they were selling these courses, right? Wholesaling, fix and flip. And the fix and flip, I wanted to go for the fix and flip, but I didn't have the money to buy a $40,000 course. So I actually just got the wholesaling, just the $3,000 wholesaling course. And it was just basically a drive with a bunch of documents and like a kind of like a step guide about how to do this. But me being really, I had done a couple of transactions, but I just didn't really understood that much. So I started calling and I started doing what it said to be done, but I wasn't able to really take it from A to Z, because I just didn't figure out how did you do the assignment, how do you find the buyer, how do you do all of this. What I did is my boyfriend started as working, he opened up an LLC, like a construction company, and he started doing construction work. We went to a local meetup in Kennewick, and I crossed eyes with a different investor in the area. And he said, I started telling him that I wanted to really learn and get a hold of how to do actually complete a wholesaling transaction. And so he said, you know what? I need a lead manager. Why don't you come in and join me as a lead manager? And so I did, and I learned I learned how to talk to sellers there. How they did it.
Nice.
Um, and so after that, I worked with him for like 6 months, and I actually joined with a different investor who brought me in. And at that point, he brought me in as a lead manager, but then he also was able to show me around about how he was doing his Facebook ads, about how he was like his CRM, about the whole process. Because the other investor had me solely doing lead, like as a lead manager. I wasn't really able to see all the aspects about how that ran. So he
Right.
brought me in as his assistant, and I was able to see that, and I worked for him for about 2 years.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah. And so just last year is when I jumped in by myself, and
Nice.
we
Nice.
started.
So what are you doing for lead gen right now? Are you cold
Uh,
calling or?
yeah. So cold calling, door knocking are two of our main ways, and then texting.
Oh, okay. And how
Yeah.
how we end up crossing paths?
Well, um, I've heard a different investor mention that he was actually doing more novations than wholesale.
Yeah,
And he's like, yeah, it's like you get to make better money. And then he kind of told me what his script was, but I really wanted just to kind of learn it more in depth. I'm like, okay, and then I just started looking on YouTube, Novation,
nice.
Novation agreements, and you popped up, and then I started following you on Instagram, and I enrolled in. I started following you for like a couple months before I actually enrolled. Like I was like, oh, is this legit or not? I
For
don't know.
sure. I do the same thing. I'm like, let me vet them out. They seem cool, but let
Yeah.
me vet them out. Let's see what's going on. No, no, I totally get it. So you were wholesaling for how long before you started implementing novations, would you say?
Well, well,
On your own.
on
Mhm.
my own,
Yeah.
wholesaling on my own,
Yeah.
just last year.
Okay.
Just
And
last
how
year.
how long have you been in the community, the Rainmaker community?
Oh, I believe I joined in. I believe it was like late February.
Okay, sweet,
Yeah.
sweet. And have you had a chance to do any novation deals yet?
Well, yeah, I did my first one. I completed.
Nice. Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Do you remember
Okay.
the situation? Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually a crazy one. I didn't know that I was gonna do innovation on that deal. I wanted to fix and flip it. So I went in there, and the seller was going to, go to foreclosure the next day. So
Whoa.
the property was scheduled for auction the very next day, but I had been trying to reach to him over the phone. So since, I wasn't really successful doing that, I'm like, okay, well, it's a 30-minute drive, but I'm gonna go, door knock and see what's going on. Just to get, see what's going on. And so actually, when I got there, he was standing outside with his girlfriend, and he said that he was, about to head over to, go file for bankruptcy so he could get that stopped.
Mm.
And so I'm like, okay, well, it's, we're at 2 p.m. right now. At this point, I'm talking to him, and the auction is the very next day at 9 in the morning.
Wow.
Like, can can we talk about how you're gonna be able to get this done in this short amount of time frame? And he's like, yeah, I really don't know. I'm like, have you tried to do a loan modification? Have you tried to modify that loan? Because I feel like at this point, this is gonna be your best option if not selling the property, but also, it's kind of 50-50. You never know at this point, what if it could make it to auction.
Yeah.
So so he said he had previously tried to do a loan modification. He said, if I can just get you on the phone, I'm like, I can get on the phone with you if you want me to, and we can call together and figure out if you're able to qualify for that. But the thing is that the loan, once the loan is under, once you have a loan and you have someone else on the loan, because he was with his ex-wife on that loan, um, he got the deed to the house, but she never got removed from the loan. So for the
Mm.
bank, in order to do a loan modification, they need to be able to have her sign over that loan modification. And the ex-wife at that point didn't want to do anything with it. She didn't want to do anything with it. He's
Yeah.
like, you're on your own, just stop making the payments, and I'm like, just tired of this, I don't care if it goes to auction.
Wow.
So yeah, so we called, and I needed him to hear it from the bank directly, not from me. That
Right.
was actually his best option right now, was that I was gonna bring him a fast sale, but I had to work on getting the sale postponed with the bank, and I only had a couple hours to do that.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of pressure. Okay.
It
So
was.
what
But,
ended up happening? How'd you pull it off?
well, I tried to pull through like a market analysis report, and I gave him an offer. He was owing 132, but I'm like, well, with like the loan, with the added fees from the attorneys, I'm guessing you're probably going to be around 142 or somewhere around there, and that's just a hard guess because you never know until you get that full payoff back, and that can
Yeah.
always be a surprise. But I made him an offer for 165, and the ARV on that property was 340.
Wow.
So I'm like, I'm gonna flip this house. But he accepted it. He accepted the offer. Um, didn't really know that there were any. I asked if there were any liens, any other liens, any other judgments or anything that could be on the title. But he
Right.
said no. So I'm like, okay, let's just go with that. I was like at 11 a.m. 11 p.m. in my car, trying to call the bank, let him know. Well, not trying to call the bank, sorry, but faxing the like purchase and sales agreement. You got to fax the purchase and sales agreement and proof of funds. You have
Mm.
to, you know, uh, do a third party authorization as well in order to be able to talk to them in regards to with about the loan and
Wow.
for the so um I faxed that over, and I called in the morning, and they said they had received it and they were reviewing it. So people were standing outside at the courthouse, like waiting for it if it was going to go through or not. There were a couple bidders already getting ready to like bid on the
Wow.
house. So yeah, at that point, I was actually outside at the court courthouse, still trying to wait and see if it's if it's gonna work out or not. And it did. They postponed it until they gave us 60 days. I got a
Wow.
60-day postponement.
Wow.
And yeah.
So you're like, well, now that the auction's postponed,
Right,
hey, this may be a perfect opportunity to put it on the market and get
right.
max it out. Okay, awesome.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, the thing is that I wasn't really thinking I was gonna do that first. My first option was to buy it myself. But when
Sure.
the preliminary title report came back, we found out that there were other judgments and had because he had previously done a loan modification and it had
Mm.
to be paid off in full in order to clear the title. So
Ah,
that brought up the balance significantly because there was like $44,000 on that, and then there were irrigation lien, which was another 3,000, and then just a couple of smaller like credit cards in there, and
oh
brought
wow.
up the balance by about 40,000. You know?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Did you end up doing any work to the house before you put it on the market or?
No, actually, no, no work.
Wow.
We got a full cash offer.
Oh, nice, nice. So I gotta ask, how much you guys end up making on that?
It was about 24,000, I believe. I think
24,000.
I sent you
Okay.
a screenshot, right? Yeah.
That's beautiful. And you didn't close on it. You didn't have to get hard money. You didn't have to do any repairs.
No,
Did you
no.
already have an agent since you were dealing locally, or is that someone that you had to like seek out?
No, I already had a trusted agent that
Nice.
listed my a flip that I did nearby, and then he typically helps me with like comms sometimes, in some
Hmm.
rural areas it's hard to really get an ARV, so he's like, I'm in Yakima, but then we also have, Sunnyside, we have a Lower Valley. There's other smaller areas around us.
Okay.
So
How long was it on the market before you got an offer?
for well, the first day we got an offer
Mm,
came back at two. So we listed it on the market at 275, and that first day we got an offer at 267.
mm. So it sounds like then you had to give the seller quite a bit more money, right?
Yeah.
Because you were at 175. What did the seller end up at? Do you remember? I'm just
So
curious.
yeah. Um. So initially we had said that I was gonna give him 218 for, we were under contract 218 with him, and then
Mm,
with the agent on the market we were at 275.
gotcha. Okay, because I thought like original because I know you said it came back with a bunch of judgments, right? So
Yeah.
it because you were originally at like 170 something or something like that, right?
Price, yeah, 165, but then it came back with a lien judgment, with a judgment. And at that point I said, you know what, I'm not going to be able to buy this property, but I do work with, pre-qualified buyers already.
Yeah.
And I have an agent. And so that, can throw it on the market for us. And you don't have to worry about paying any commissions. You don't have to worry about repairing the property. I'm going to take care of all of that, all the closing costs. You just
Yeah.
have to pretty much sign you just have to sign the closing documents, and you're going to be able to see everything at that point, how much we're making, everything, it's disclosed to you. And so that's when I went ahead and we re-signed from a regular purchase and sales agreement to an Novation agreement. And
Hmm.
I brought it up from 165 to 218.
Wow. So he got an extra what is that? 50 something thousand, right?
At 165, he was gonna make nothing pretty much. We
Yeah.
were like we were way over, but we
Yeah.
were way underneath.
So
So
and you saved his tail with the faxing that in and stopping the auction. I mean, he
yeah,
definitely, it was a win. You know what I mean? That was definitely very generous for you to bring it up that much too. You know what I mean? And
but then I
wow.
actually brought it up even more because I told him, you know what, look, I just wanted to be fair with everyone, right? Like,
Hmm.
I know we were at 218 and we got an offer, but the offer is like a cash offer. I don't have to do any repairs to the house. So,
Yeah.
I'll bump your side to 228. So that way, you'll get 10 more grand,
Wow.
and you'll be set with, to get more money in your pocket, pretty much.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. And it was a nice clean deal for you. Like you kind of had the wind to your back where everything fell into place. So it's good. It was good karma all the way around. And
Right.
you still made a nice little profit, you know what I mean? And got proof of concept. So
Yes.
that's killer. That's killer. Do you see yourself doing after completing the first one? Do you see yourself leaning more into this as time
Yeah,
goes or what?
definitely. Definitely. I mean, I would have not when it was at 218, when I was with the seller at 218, I was trying to send it at the same time I was sending it to my just cash buyers list.
Yeah.
And nobody really, it wasn't a deal for really none of them. We had a buyer from Seattle came over to buy this house because he was doing a 1031 exchange. But like my local investors that I knew, the numbers were too tight to be a flip for them even.
Right.
So
Yeah. So that's
um
a win. That's a win-win for everybody. That's killer.
yeah, yeah. So it was really nice. I could have made more. I could have made more in the 34,000, but I'm like, I'll just cut it down because I don't have to do any repairs. I was really thinking I had to come in and like at least, maybe do some, like the roof, for example, because it wasn't that bad, but it had like maybe like a couple years of life, but I'm like, I don't have to do nothing. So keep
Is
everyone happy. I know that's one of the main things is you got to keep that seller happy so that when he goes to signing those documents, then, you know, then he's
absolutely.
willing to
Yeah,
sign.
we stress that. It's like, remember, we're selling an experience to them. You want
Mhm.
them to be happy. You want them leaving the transaction feeling like they got what they expected. You know what I mean? And that's awesome. I mean, you give them that extra 10 grand, that's definitely beyond the call of duty. But
Yeah.
God will reward you for that. You know what I mean? And it's good to have the flow of money going, especially when you get lucky on some things and everything
Yeah.
falls into place. No, that's dope. That's super
Yeah.
dope. What was it about when you learned about Novations? Was it the fact that you already knew someone that was doing it that helped you just kind of buy into it and take action? Or are you just kind of like that with things where you hear about something, as long as it makes sense, you're like, hey, let's give this a shot and you just go for it? Or what's that like?
No, actually, I think I was more brave, a couple years back where I would do that. But then, I learned some things the hard way.
Right.
And so me hearing that other investor that is actually in Seattle area that said to me, I'm doing Novation deals. And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of like brought up the fact because I thought Novation deals, I just didn't really know, how does that, because I've been hearing about Novations before,
Yeah.
but it just seemed way too complicated.
Nice.
It just didn't know exactly how that would really work out. So me hearing him saying that, it just brought to me that okay, this is actually possible, not just
Right.
hearing it on the internet, right?
Yeah. Hey, if he's doing it and he has nothing to gain by lying to me, you know what I mean? He ain't selling
Right.
anything. So there's something to it. You know what I mean? That's funny.
Mhm.
That's the same with me,
Yeah,
how I learned about wholesaling. Because if it was someone selling something, I would never believe it. But I knew someone and I saw them traveling and vacationing, one of my buddies. And I was like, dang, how's he pulling this off? And then that's when I hit him up and I found out about wholesaling. So, no, that is so
yeah.
cool. So it's safe to say
That's,
your life has really grown since you first started taking action and now you're doing deals and everything and on your own. And do you
yeah.
see yourself like growing a team, or are you happy just kind of doing your thing the way you're doing it now, or what's next for you?
That's a good question. I do have a virtual assistant right now, and that helps me around, and we do really good between us. I would like to. I have been actually considering about getting my real estate license and also becoming an agent. Just be able to focus more because I'm really focused on. I haven't really done any like ads or anything. I'm mainly focused on cold calling and SMS and specifically work with pre-foreclosures.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to go even deeper into that niche and maybe even work short sales and, learn about other strategies as well.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I know some people that are real deep on foreclosures, and that's a
Hmm.
really good niche because like if you can know more about that, then the
Yeah.
other people, those are problems that need to be solved. Like that's real motivation when you're about to lose your house. So
Yes,
no, that's very
definitely.
cool.
I don't know that there was anybody else that could have like really helped the owner at that point when he was 1 day away from foreclosure to, getting actually a much better price than what I would even have been able to pay him as like a cash deal.
For
So,
sure.
and get him the extension, get him two more months to stay in the house to help him figure out what's going to be next in his life.
Wow.
So I feel like that was a big thing too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you saved his rear end for sure. I mean, they were on the porch the day before, like, yeah, we're thinking about headed to the courthouse and filing the bankruptcy. Like, I don't
I'm like,
know.
well, let's think about this. Is this how are you gonna get there actually? Because they close at 4, and you don't even know where to go actually. Because they were saying I'm gonna go to the courthouse, and that's not actually where you go to file bankruptcy. There's a whole
Wow.
different department where you go and file bankruptcy. And
Now,
so,
if people have like, let's say they have like a foreclosure deal or they have a deal in Washington, right? Maybe it's a wholesale deal, novation deal. If they wanted to work with you, like, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
probably through Facebook or Instagram, or just emailing me.
Okay, cool. We'll put those in the description for anyone that wants to reach out.
Mhm.
Yo, this was an inspiring story. Like literally, like, I've talked to you in the group and stuff like that, but I haven't heard about like your history or anything. Very, very inspiring. Hats off to you. Like you definitely pulled that off. And you're doing it the from the trenches, cold calling, door knocking, like whatever it takes. So I think that's amazing. You know what I mean? Anything you need,
Yeah.
definitely holler at us. But yeah, we definitely appreciate you. And yeah, we look forward to seeing what's next to come for you. So
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. And I appreciate that. When I was trying to figure out that the part with putting that invoice together, and because just a title company, I normally use them to do all my wholesale deals, but they never done a Novation deal, so I kind of had to
right.
also kind of walk them into how to do it. And I just called you, and I wasn't really. I'm like, oh, let's see if he picks up, and I called you.
Yo, I'm here for you. When I say I'm
I'm
here for
like,
you guys, I'm here for you for
I
sure.
believe that. I believe that. Yeah, yeah. And at that moment, we got it figured out. But those little things is what can make or break a deal, especially when
Oh
you're running
yeah.
against.
Oh, it's so stressful. If you get like a settlement statement last minute, they're like, hurry up, they're coming in to sign. Like, we need your invoice. Like, what? Like, so
It is crazy. It is crazy. Like that transaction, for example, our closing date was the 1st of May, and then the auction was the 3rd. Like it had been postponed to the 3rd. And
wow.
so just getting everything in line for closing, getting the money over to them, and then some of those payoffs, like you gotta actually send a cashier's check,
Oh
and
wow.
it can take a while. So it was they actually made an exception and they let us wire the funds. But they can get pretty tough to work with. So yeah, but it happened, and the seller's happy, and I'm glad that I was able to get this done and still make a good profit out of it.
I love that. And I love
There's
the
more
way
to
that you
come.
look at it too. The way you frame it is like the most important thing. We got the job done. The seller came out ahead. The
Yeah,
world's a better place with your transaction taking place. The buyer still got a good deal. You know what I mean? They were happy. You know what I mean?
right,
Your agent made some money. The title company made some money. It was a win all the
right,
way around. So hats off to you.
exactly. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Well, hey, definitely appreciate it. And I'll tell you what too. I'll cut. It'll probably take about a week for me to get it online. If you can DM me with whatever stuff you want me to put in the description for how people can reach out to you. But no, that was awesome. That was super cool.
I'm like, I just don't. I feel like I was scattered all over the place when you
It
were
was
asking
no,
questions.
it was perfect. It was raw, authentic. It's exactly what it is. Because these are the things. Like for me and you, this is just like a normal conversation. But like for the people watching it, this is the stuff that they don't get to listen into. Because a lot of the people, they're not even in the game yet, or they're in the game and they're struggling. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So no, it's cool. Like I definitely know your stuff about the foreclosures too. I've done a handful of them, but I'm not like a big fan. It's too much
It
pressure
is,
for
it is
me.
too much pressure. It is,
It's a
but
lot.
it is actually, especially when you have a couple of deals going on at the same time. Like that was one
Yeah.
deal, but then I had at that time. while I was going through this, I also had another property in the same type of situation that I was actually helping too. And
Yeah.
I'm dealing with a flip currently too that I'm, closing and stuff. So it's not just that one. Like but the other one is a flip. The other transaction, actually had that one assigned to a different, because I had already gone through that process.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought Novation's gonna be the way to go. It's the only way to go in this scenario, and I'm gonna have
Oh
to make
yeah.
sure. But it was very
That's
helpful.
sweet.
It was very helpful just to have being able to watch the videos. I need to get more involved. I really feel like I need to get more involved into the Novations. It is
Yeah.
something that I'm thinking about doing more. Like recently I just had another deal. In that deal, I just assigned it straight out because it is the same type of situation with a foreclosure. And
Wow.
I didn't really want to postpone the sale since we do have time to close as a cash deal, simply because when you do a postponement, that adds a bunch of other fees. Attorney fees rank up by a ton.
Oh, okay.
So it just, and the sellers actually more in the shoes where they're okay with whatever they make. They're okay if they don't even make anything. They just don't want that in their record.
Yeah, like that ship has already sailed in their mind.
And
Like
and
it's
they're
dead
like
already.
they're like a property that they inherited, and they're out of state, and like, and more so they just wanted to go to someone that will actually fix it up. And it had like squatters in it,
Oh wow.
really rough situation. Like it's not something that I can go in easily clean up and throw on the market.
Right. Nice. Well, we get all the fun ones, you know.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah.
Well,
So
awesome. Well, yo, it was great. It was definitely great connecting with you. Stay in touch. You already know anything you need help with anything, just holler at me. Me and
how
some.
did you go from this, like losing your house, to actually, yeah, like getting top dollar? Because he got much more. I think he walked away with.
Hey, get my free Novation comping toolkit that we put together at novationcomping.com. To learn more about Novation deals, you can go to novationking.com. To work with me and my team, you can send us your hot opportunities at novationjv.com. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Novation King. Thanks for tuning in. See you on the next one.